welcome back. It is week 44 on Out on That Line podcast. I'm Geoff with my co-host, as always, Alex. How you doing this week?
This next one is kind of a somber song, so don't be afraid to cry. It's about a little duck who gets his head stuck inside of a stewed tomato.
Oh my God, it's Tony Soprano's nightmare.
Do you know to what I'm referring?
No.
Have you watched I Think You Should Leave?
I haven't.
Oh, buddy.
It's good?
You got to get on that. To anyone that's
Okay.
listening out there, within the sound of my voice, if you've seen I Think You Should Leave, badger Geoff. Make sure to remind him that this is the next step in his life. There is Boy
Turning
Meets
my
Girl.
audience against me. How dare you?
Absolutely. I love to weaponize a mob.
Oh, God.
It's the next phase for you. It's like Boy Meets Girl. You guys get engaged, and you would think like, oh, marriage and babies. No. First thing you do is you guys crush I Think You Should Leave in a sitting, and you report back to me and tell me how much you loved it. And if you didn't like it, you lie and tell me you loved it. But you're going to like it.
Okay. All right. I'll check it out. I keep seeing it on the Twitter from people that I follow. So I assume if I follow them and I like their opinion on things, then I should listen to that opinion, and I'll get to it. I'll watch that show.
It's delightful.
Yeah. I see the memes for it.
Oh, they're
The
cutting
guy looks
edge.
The guy looks horrifying. Looks like a horrifying individual.
And he frequently is on the show, but my God, is he talented. It's just like the funniest, most uncomfortable shit ever.
Okay. I'm in.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Okay. Well, we have a few things to talk about this week. We have some good news, we have some bad news, and we have some incredible news. So first, we're going to do the bad news. We're going to rip off the Band-Aid. We're just going to get it over with. Eric Clapton decided this week that he is going to cancel any shows at venues that require proof of vaccination as his way of making another little stand alongside his butt buddy Van Morrison.
Taking a very brave stance in this society. Good for you, slow hand. Well done. Well played. You really fucking showed us, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he's doing it because the people that are still willing to shell out money to see his old ass are probably ones that agree with him saying that anyway.
Very true. And the Morgan Wallen situation where it's like he demonstrably does a horrible thing, gives a half-assed apology because he had to, and then they stopped playing him on the airwaves, but it didn't stop the MAGA dinks from making his songs number 2 and 4 at this point in the year, at the halfway point.
Yeah.
Like, he's crushing. I think Luke Combs is 1, and then Morgan Wallen's 2 and 4 for singles.
Gross.
So that fucking double album did gangbusters. It's fucking crazy how the guy got canceled, if you want to call it that. He got a slap on the wrist for being a fucking racist asshole, and his followers took the extremely nuanced view of lifting him up to prove that cancel culture isn't a thing, and to also prove everything that everyone says about them, which is they're racist backwards pigs. So thanks for fucking over country music, and thanks for letting everybody know what the Q MAGA ding-dongs are really all about. Great job, guys. Really spiffy stuff. Just top notch.
Yeah, a really, really wonderful performance from everybody. I think at the halfway point of the year, it's safe to say it is the performance of the year. Folks lifting up Morgan Wallen in the way that they did. I can't imagine anything more selfless. It's the real a beacon of humanity to see that, uttering vile racist things is not enough to ruin your career as long as you're a white man.
Amen. Amen, brother. We'll just always keep on chugging. We take a licking, but we keep on ticking.
Yeah, baby.
We white boys.
Yeah, baby. Yeah,
including
that's what I'm talking about.
Uncle Eric, old slowhand. Fucking, I hope it gets to the point where these venues realize like we can and do bring in bigger acts and more relevant acts than Eric Clapton. So if he says he won't play the venue, I guess we require proof of vaccination then just to make sure he doesn't come. Like he should be performing at
just gave him an out.
Yeah, like he should. I want it to get to the point where Eric Clapton is just playing a giant mud field, like the Gathering of the Juggalos. Just him and a bunch of like old British racist high school principals just milling around in the muck, singing "Lay Down Sally" together. Like it sounds miserable and pathetic, and like the most fucking awesome thing that could happen to Eric Clapton.
Oh man, you know what? I feel like the venue managers are probably like, thank God we were sick of this guy's rider. We don't want to deal with it again. I'm sick of trying to find Ben Gay and Mein Kampf every single year. It's terrible. So he said that, and they're probably all just like, fuck yeah, we can get somebody way better in. We could get Morgan Wallen in here instead.
Yeah. He seems to have no compunctions about doing whatever he wants whenever he wants. He's perfect.
Yeah, his rider is just whiskey.
Yeah.
That's easy.
Rider, barely know her. That's Morgan Wallen's take on that. Fucking prick. I fucking hate that guy.
Did you see Dee Snider has said that cancel culture used to be a right-wing thing, but now it's a left-wing thing. And I don't think he was taking any particular side himself. I think he was just like, well, they were doing it for one reason, because some puritanical bullshit, I think, was maybe not his exact words, but paraphrasing, I suppose. And then he said, now the left is wanting people to be like kinder and gentler, so they're canceling anybody that doesn't fit in that mold. And he's like, and I don't know how I feel about it. I'm like, I don't know if anybody cares, man.
I mean, no, it's true. No one cares. Like, we thank him for his service alongside Mr. Sunshine on My Shoulders, goddamn John Denver, and getting him out of the way, Uncle Frank Zappa. Yep. They went in front of the PMRC, the Parents Music Restriction, Suck My Dick, whatever. And like these three very different, very articulate gentlemen got up and said, don't put stickers on albums because of the blank tape tax that you guys are trying to fucking finagle. And so I will always thank Dee Snider for his service in telling Tipper Gore to go fuck herself. But other than that, is anyone like really hurting for Dee Snider at this point?
I mean, I guess I'll listen to like We're Not Gonna Take It, and I know he has other songs that I Want to Rock.
Oh, okay,
Another a couple great ones there, but I don't know if I'm ever gonna really care if those went away forever.
No, and like I don't know, way to sit right on the fence, D. Like, and I don't even mean to be like pick a side, but like I don't know. I think he probably thinks he was pretty brave to do what he did. And
I think he's just looking for any airtime he can possibly get these days.
He's just Sebastian Bach in Trailer Park Boys, where it's like, what the fuck, man? Why is this joint all covered in dead bees?
Yeah. Well, he did do Mac the Knife. That was kind of cool.
He did, and it was exactly. Yep, I remember seeing that in high school.
Yeah. Well, I guess talked a lot of shit about Eric Clapton and Morgan Wallen. Some lukewarm, half-hearted sort of praise for Dee Snider. We're off to a hot start this week.
Pretty
much. Week 44 is going to go down in history for sure.
Oh yeah, the history of Out on That Line is constantly being written with crayons, and this is no exception.
Do you know why they gave crayons to people in like psych wards and stuff instead of pens or pencils?
Because they'd stab each other or themselves with the pens and pencils.
Yeah, I never knew that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I always thought it was like, oh, look at this crazy person wanting to use crayons, but they didn't have another choice. They could have been a genius, and we'd never know.
Yeah, that's the thing, is you could write like 95 theses, but if you do it in Purple Mountain's Majesty crayon, purple macaroni and cheese.
Yeah, you're just going to fall on deaf ears.
It's sad.
Maybe that's a conspiracy. Maybe we're putting all our brightest and best people in psych wards because we're scared of them, and then we're going to make these motherfuckers write with crayon, and no one's going to take that shit seriously.
We just
maybe that's what's happened.
Them. Yeah, it's just a concerted effort to like crush intellectual spirits. They were the first to go anytime there was any kind of like big political movement. Germany, pre-World War II. Who do you get rid of first? The intellectuals. You hand them a crayon, and no one's taking them seriously.
Well, I think we just uncovered a conspiracy here. So if my FBI agent is listening, you didn't hear a thing, okay? I like my life. I like my dogs. I don't want to be disappeared, okay? I don't want it to happen.
And to my FBI agent, I say to you, sir, I have nothing that I'm holding on to and absolutely nothing to lose. So come and get it, pussy.
Well, all right. Well, come back next week when I'll be hosting alone.
They give you a mandatory replacement. Some guy who's vague. They just give you David Harbour to do the show with.
Oh man, we're just gonna be a state-sponsored podcast.
Yeah, pretty much. Sounds dope.
Just gonna recite the Pledge of Allegiance at the beginning and end of every show. The middle is only going to be the national anthem sung 6 times in succession, and that's it. That's all out on that line is going to be.
There we go. Every week we tell people what to think and feel.
Probably get more listeners than ever if we did that, to be honest with you.
I think about that all the time.
Get those Morgan Wallen and Eric Clapton fans.
Woo! That's my crowd.
Is the fat wallet worth that? I don't know. We have to think about it. But there is the greatest news that I was mentioning before. A little band called Coheed and Cambria has released a new single in anticipation of what I assume is going to be the new album, Vaxis 2. They came out with Vaxis 1, The Unheavenly Creatures, in 2018. Generally, they're on about a 2 to 3 year cycle for albums. So I think we got another one in the chamber, and it should be coming out soon. The new single, Shoulders, is a banger, an absolute banger. I mean, I was like a little worried because I'd heard this album was going to be a little bit different than what Coheed had been before. And I'm fine with that. There's a lot of people that think the Color Before the Sun album is not good. There's a lot of people that think the Year of the Black Rainbow album is not good. I think Color Before the Sun was a great album. Year of the Black Rainbow, not their best, but still not bad. So I was a little worried what people, were going to say about this one. But so far the response has been kind of off the charts, like just positive all around, because this song thrashes. This song has the big Coheed hooks like everybody likes, like you would hear on the No World for Tomorrow album. It's just a damn good song. I've listened to it probably like 15 times already since they released it last night at 11 my time, 12 Eastern. It's just I don't know. I can feel it. I've got my tickets for the September show already. I am brimming with anticipation for this album cycle right now.
Yeah, this song jacks your shit up, man. It is aggressive. I was not expecting it, especially after we got Jesse's Girl 2, appropriately.
Yeah.
One of the maybe was it the first thing? Was it the first opening segment we ever did? Was that?
I think it was.
I mean, so look how entrenched Coheed and Cambria is in the lore. And the very first episode had the Jesse's Girl 2, which we loved. And I was like, oh, this is very different. It's like recognizably Coheed, but it's very different and kind of lighthearted and interesting. And then almost a year later, they come out with Shoulders, and it's like I've been listening to a lot of like industrial metal, like really fucked up like death metal stuff, just people just screaming in pain, just Lingua Ignota, look her up, she's fucking hardcore.
So life's going well for you, I guess.
Everything over here is tremendous, don't you worry about me. But I've been listening to a lot of industrial metal on the experimental side, and this isn't like inaccessibly off the fucking wall, like off the map like that. But it is like, again, super aggressive, and it's a super metal sound. Like, they've always been more prog to me than anything else. And then like The Color Before the Sun, I really like that album. I remember when you bought it, and we listened to it a bunch. I was like, this is really different, but it was like indie Coheed almost. I really liked it a lot. So I love that they can encapsulate a bunch of different sounds and just like try different shit out. And they have such a loyal fan base. Like they're all like you. They're going to show up no matter what's happening. So I think that's cool. I think it's cool that they have the latitude to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's really, it's really impressive that, I became a fan of them 18 years ago in 2003. It was a long time ago. And it just has continued since. It's something that I really look forward to every time they're coming out with something new. Every time I've seen them live, it's like a brand new experience. It's just like a damn good band to be a fan of. And you can take or leave the music. I don't really care about that, but I think everybody can relate to like having an artist that they love so much that's their one, and Coheed for me is the one, because it's the band that I kind of discovered without any like parental influence or anything like that. It was just like word of mouth from a high school classmate. And I was like, oh, I think this band sounds pretty good. And I'd heard A Favor House Atlantic, And then I talked about it, and that was the classmate that was like, oh, you should get the whole album. The whole album is really awesome. And I was like, okay. And then when you realize like what they are, and it's Coheed and Cambria are just characters in a story called the Amory Wars. And so they've done the full cycle of the Amory Wars with 5 albums. And then they went and did the Afterman albums with Ascension and Descension. Still part of that same universe, I suppose, but not the same storyline as the Amory Wars. And then they came out with Color Before the Sun, which was not at all involved in any of the universes that they'd created or anything like that. And then they did Vaxis 1, the Unheavenly Creatures. And they started, and they were like, oh, this is going to be a 5-album cycle for this storyline. I was like, you're telling me you're going to give me 5 more of these and you're already saying it? Like, sign me up. Let's go. And so they came out with the first one with the first single, Dark Sentencer, which was a banger of a metal song as well. And I was just like wondering if they were going to go that hot and heavy with the first single from this album. And they did. I mean, Shoulders is a hard rockin' song. I mean, from the word go, this song is just a fucking banger. And I loved every second of it. I'm so excited to see them live in September. I hope they open with this song. It's just going to be such a good show.
Who's going with you to the show?
Nobody yet. I have 2 tickets.
Shit.
Fiance of the Pod Marla, not one for Coheed shows. They do get, it's a certain type of crowd goes to Coheed shows, not her type of crowd.
Yeah.
She's a big music fan, loves going to live shows. Just Coheed's not her thing.
Yeah, if somebody starts throwing spin kicks around, she's liable to take one she's kind of a short gal, so
yeah. So I got to find somebody down here to go to the show with her. I'll just sell that ticket and go myself. I don't care.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, we'll figure it out, though. But yeah, this song is just, I don't know why I thought they would do something different, because Vaxis, it was Dark Sentencer. When they did Year of the Black Rainbow, it was Here We Are Juggernaut. I mean, like, they've made a habit of releasing, like, the heaviest song from the album as the lead single, which is, I love that. Gets you so excited for it.
So wait, they wrapped up the Amory War story?
So the Vaxis is part of that universe, but the Amory Wars is, as far as I know, complete, done with.
Okay. So
Yes.
Amory Wars proper is done, and now Vaxis is going to be a new 5-album cycle.
Yeah.
Dope.
Yeah. And it's so Vaxis part 1 was about the Dark Sentencer, which is the prison planet, or like the big, space station that's a prison basically, but it's a prison planet where they're like mining resources until the planet dies basically, and then they move on to the next one. It's just like, that's what the prisoners do, is the mining, and there's no way off the planet because you're in the middle of space. So, what are you going to do? But that's what that first one is about. So we'll find out what the storyline is, because they're going to probably come out with the next like kind of graphic novel to go along with it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I dig that shit. I dig that they've got that whole, we call that vertical integration.
Yes.
When it spins off into different disciplines. So hats off. I like that.
Yeah, it's going to be, I'm so excited. I'm so excited for the show. I'm so excited for the album. And Claudio Sanchez is just a boy genius. That's all it comes down to. The man, and as far as I'm concerned, can do no wrong.
All right. I'll take
so
that. I'll buy that for $1.
Go check that song out. I assume if you're an Out on That Line listener, you've probably already heard it. But go listen to it again. Give them some streams. Get Claudio some money so he can keep making these awesome, sweet, sweet tunes.
That man runs through conditioner like crazy. He must. So,
Yeah.
throw a little
Sponsor
coins
him.
away.
Paul Mitchell, sponsor him, please. He needs it. For us, for the fans, for Claudio.
For Claudio,
Yes,
always.
for Claudio. So we have an album review to do this week. And this is a guy people may not have heard of. I'm not sure. Fairly indie, kind of just getting his start here. It's John Mayer. And, like I said, maybe people have heard of him. Maybe people haven't. Maybe he's like the best guitar player going right now for, as far as anyone that famous. Maybe that's the case. Maybe he's been one of the most successful songwriters and performers of the last 15, 20 years or so. Maybe that's the case. But he's come out with a new album called SOB ROCK. And I got to say, it is exactly... I don't know if we've had an album that is more aptly titled than SOB ROCK.
I would have to agree. It's a big time sad boy album, and it's interesting. No, I'll save this for later. Never mind. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. Swerve. Back to you, Geoff.
Well, so it's a very like, I don't know if people heard the single New Light. That was the one that kind of, I think that one along with, there was another, I forget what song it was that came out with, that was the other single, but New Light was the one that I heard that I didn't realize was going to be like on this album because I'd kind of forgotten about it until like
came
recent
out in
weeks.
2018.
Yeah, I was going to say like I'd really forgotten about it until recent weeks, and I'm surprised it's on this album. He must have been working on it for a long time, and 3 years at least worth of work on this album, and I don't know if it feels like 3 years worth of work to me.
Go ahead. I mean, I'll do you one better, Geoff. He started working on this album in 2017.
Okay. Well, I mean, I know how talented John Mayer is, and I have really nothing against the guy. He does his like pop music stuff, pays the bills, keeps the lights on that way. I'm sure is kind of why he does that. Probably also likes being, having hundreds of young, adoring female fans. I'm sure is another reason why he does those sort of songs. But he's a monster guitar player, absolute monster guitar player. Also has that the John Mayer trio, which is like a power trio. Like think, as much as I hate to say it, think like Cream, one of Eric Clapton's bands, but he was the lesser part of it. John Mayer is really the cream of the crop in that band. He also he's the guitar player for Dead and Company.
Yep.
So it's like the remaining members of the Grateful Dead, like who have a rabid fan base, and they probably rivaling that of the Coheed fan base, I would say. He plays for them. I mean, they asked him to come in and play with them. So it's like and they would have any guitar player they wanted to have, likely, if they really wanted them. I mean, they're that level of a band, and they chose John Mayer. So it definitely, like, his talent is unquestionable, absolutely unquestionable. And this album, to me, is very questionable as far as what he's capable of. And it's just like very 80s, which I can appreciate. But the lyrics, even for John Mayer, are just not that great on this one.
The lyrics come in way under par. Or I guess coming in under par is a good thing. They're massively over par. It's tough. I think I might have liked this album a little more than you did. But anecdotally, last night, as of recording this on Wednesday, Tanner and I went and hung out with friend of the pod, Eric, who, as I think we've mentioned before, recorded the song that we used for our opener. And we're over hanging out with him, and he casually dropped into the middle of a conversation that he thought SOB Rock was mind-blowing. And Eric is like potentially, I think he's got to be the most talented musician I've ever met and ever worked with. Because he's a sound engineer. He builds his own guitars and amps. The stuff he was playing for me and Tanner was out of this fucking world. So like, he's got so much talent, and he's got such an eye for talent. So when he was like, it was mind-blowing, I was like, what did I miss? Because I've listened to this album. It's 38 minutes long, so you can listen to it a million times.
Yeah.
And it doesn't get better. It doesn't get worse, but it doesn't get better. It's pretty much 4 o'clock. You know what I mean? Flat in 4 o'clock. So I don't know.
I mean, New Light kind of gave me some hope because I was like, oh, it's a nice little dancey tune. And then when I saw that was on the album, I was like, okay, it should be fine. But it really just like, I don't know. I'd heard a lot of things from John Mayer that I liked a lot more than this.
Yes.
Not that this was like terrible or anything. It was just, for me, like severely underwhelming.
When it hit, thing. Yeah, when the stuff that hits really hits and hangs strong, and that's good. But the best role for someone like John Mayer is John Mayer Trio, or especially being the touring guitarist for the Dead, because guitar is his big swinging dick. His voice, for what he's doing, you can get away with it. I don't even think it's his weakest asset. His lyrics are weak tit.
Yeah,
just pretty fucking bad. He sneaks in, he lucks out, and gets a memorable line. I love seven other women, and they've all been you. Like stuff like that. Like, yeah, there you go, buddy. But it's like picking through a big stack of cow pies to find a fucking pearl. And like, that sounds fucking mean, but yeah, it's just insubstantial from a lyrical standpoint. The guitar, fantastic. The music, usually pretty fucking good. And just like the farther down you drill into the song, it kind of falls apart a little bit.
Yeah, it's very fluffy. Is kind of how
Yeah.
I felt about the whole thing. Like, but production wise, great. Obviously, it's going to be good with the resources that he has available to him. But I feel like there's got to be like some lyrical consultation he needs to be doing with people. Because I mean, I remember even like his other pop stuff, like "Waiting on the World to Change." Like I remember that song was pretty good. It's like that's got like some decent lyrics and everything. So he's capable of doing that. I think this one was just like an album. He had a specific sound that he wanted to get across. And I think the lyrics took the back seat to the sound, because the album as a vibe is like very consistent. But, musically is very consistent, but the lyrics are just like, there's a couple, like you said, there's a couple little glimmers. There's a couple little bright spots. But overall, to me, I was just like, this kind of like, I'm listening to nothing. It's like, it just doesn't seem to say much.
Yeah, it says one thing. Like the sum of its parts say one thing, which is John Mayer exists in a world where he's famous and could ostensibly have everybody he wants, but he's also like tabloid fodder, and a lot of people have written him off as a douchebag. So he's just kind of like the lonely boy at the top of the mountain, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even think he has a douchebag's mentality about it. He basically took that feeling and made SOB Rock. And as an experiment in tribute to like the 80s guitarists that he loved, it's half successful, because you said it's pretty consistent vibe. And I half agree with that. It's consistent enough in that he doesn't break out into like some barn burner at some point. You know what I mean? It's all like fairly restrained and subdued. But almost like every other song dipped the 80s thing and went into a fairly standard John Mayer song. And that threw me a little bit. The other thing that threw me when I realized we were going to have to talk about this is he kind of safeguarded himself from criticism. He's like, the album is a shitpost. So if it's bad, it was supposed to be bad, wink, wink. And if you really liked it, I'm a genius. And I don't fuck with that. You gotta fucking have the courage of your convictions, and if it fucking sucks, it fucking sucks. But you can't pretend like you intended for it to be bad.
Yeah, that's such a cop-out to me.
It's a big cop-out.
And especially somebody as talented as him. Because there's been bands, and I'm going to use an example that I can't think of any like backup evidence for, but I think there's people that are going to understand what I'm saying here. But there's been bands that like, in spite of themselves, came out with something great. There's been bands that like everything else they ever did was terrible, but they had that one shining moment, Like John Mayer has had a consistently great career. As far as guitar players go in this day and age, it's tough to make it as somebody that's known as a guitar player. Like I can't really think of anybody else that's known for it like he is, that's as famous as he is. So, he's clearly had reasons for the success that he's had. He's a very, very talented guy, which tells me, and it's been consistent, so which tells me that he is aware of what's good and what's bad when it comes to music. And kind of taste notwithstanding, because you can think something's good and I just hate it. There's taste notwithstanding. It's just like a matter of the effort and the kind of message that you're trying to get across. I feel like he is able to recognize that. He has the talent level to understand those things and realize that maybe the message wasn't supposed to be directed to him, but he's able to understand the effort and the talent that's there. And I think with John Mayer, the message always wasn't directed towards me, but I've always understood that the talent is there. And I think he understands when he makes an album like this, that it's not his best work, and him like kind of towing the line there, like kind of trying to straddle the fence, like is a huge cop out, and I think it's disappointing. I think I'd be excited to see what else he has coming up with John Mayer Trio. But, as far as the solo stuff goes, like he's going to need to work pretty hard to come back to any sort of credibility for me after this one.
Well, and, that is not the critical consensus out there. You know what I mean? It was like the Doja Cat album where everybody was like really licking its balls. And I'm like, again, it's not actively bad. But my main gripe with it is the two things he said were it's a shitpost. And then also, I wanted it to sound like an album that was recorded in 1988 and then shelved. And then you just magically find it at a record store one day. I'm like, it motherfucker, one or the other. Which one is it? It can't be both. It can't be an undiscovered gem, and it can't be a fucking joke or a meme. It can't be both. You have to pick one. And I think it would be like anyone that says they intentionally made something bad is lying, because something like The Room was not intentionally bad. It was bad because of the person who was doing it didn't know what they were fucking doing. And John Mayer knows better. Ergo, I don't think he's capable of actively creating a shitty album, trying to. His instincts would kick in. It's like falling. You can't not put your arms down and catch yourself. So I resent the fact that he thinks people are stupid enough to buy that reason, or to not care that he said two completely incongruous things. That said, I'm also not on the John Mayer is a douchebag train like some other people are, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like we should get into the actual songs, and we can try to explain, because I think people, we could spend all day talking about how it was like not as good as it should have been, and John Mayer as a thing. But I think we can back up what we're saying with talking about some of the songs. So the leadoff track, is one that you had selected as one of your three, Last Train Home.
Yep. And to be clear at the top of this one, there's a lot to like in this album, at least for me. Like, I don't know how much of it hit you and what it was, but there's a lot to like. So it's not just going to be like a big shitball parade on the album. So Last Train Home, the wonkiness of New Light and the other single notwithstanding, Last Train Home for like the current consciousness was the first single. And it got me really excited for this album, because I think everybody's first listen, they immediately go, Toto. I hear Toto. And the more I've listened to it, I don't hear Toto at all. I hear maybe like the slightest bit of Africa, but that's purely like the relationship between synthesizers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the more you listen to it, the more it has, there's no poor Caro brother level talent to be found in that. It's a pretty simple, straightforward song, but it's nothing I'd ever heard John Mayer do before. I'm a big smooth music guy. I fucking adore Toto. I worship the Porcaros. Like, so I was like very taken in by this when it came out. And again, the more you hear it, the more you're like, well, it's not, doing anything too fucking crazy. But it's got staying power. It's pretty like right down the middle. And I know that's like faint and damning praise, but I enjoy it when it comes on. I'm not unhappy to hear it. But I almost think like this bread sandwich compliment that I just gave it is a little damning. You know what I mean? Because it's one of the songs I liked more, and I'm not willing to go out further on the limb than it was good, and I liked it.
Yeah. I think this was, it led off, and I was like, damn, this isn't just like influenced by the 80s, it's consumed by the 80s. I mean, it is like, he took the time machine back to 1985 and and wanted to just really dig into that sound and that kind of vibe, and he nailed the vibe. But as far as the songs, like this one was one of the better ones on the album. I will say that. And the other song, Carry Me Away, was the other single. I'm reading in the track list here. I just needed to see it in front of me to get reminded, but I didn't even remember that song being a single. I don't remember ever hearing that one before this album.
No.
But he had Maren Morris on this song, which I was like, oh, well, it's got to be pretty good if she's on it, because but then she's barely on it. It's like she barely has anything until the last chorus, like the kind of outro. You don't even hear a peep from her the whole time.
She's not singing words. And apparently I am a Maren Morris apologist. I thought I was just a Maren Morris fan. I didn't realize she was an extremely polarizing individual. People really fucking hate her, or they love the shit out of her. And I feel like I'm right there in the middle. I like her pretty well. But I thought it was a weird utilization of her. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was because she's got a hell of a voice, I think is the thing. Like, that's why she got famous so quickly in the first place, was because she had real powerhouse voice. And I'm sure John Mayer was just like, hey, I have an opportunity to get somebody really talented in here to sing on this song. So like, I'm going to do that. Maybe they have like record label commonalities or something like that. I'm not sure why she was on it, but she wasn't utilized like at all. So it's like you're going to bring her in, and I'm sure she was perfectly happy to just like sing 3 lines and get paid probably a good amount of money for half a day in a studio. I'm sure she didn't mind doing it, but it's like you had the opportunity to use someone that talented. You should have done more with it. And I think that's part of how that sort of thing kind of led throughout the rest of the album for me. It was like, you could have done more with this. Cause like, I love 80s music. I love that like 80s synth pop, like synth wave kind of music. And I felt like this was almost there in a lot of places, but just never quite got there. I was like, every song, I felt like there was something that could have been much better about it.
This is the album of missed opportunities. Like, you've got someone like Maren Morris with her pipes, with her presence. Your voices sound pretty damn good together. Why not give us the John Mayer take on the 80s power ballad, the male-female duet? I get that they're not necessarily going to make some fucking earth-shattering, cataclysmic, loud Meatloaf Wagnerian style sound. I just don't think John Mayer's got that in him, but he could definitely do his spin on it, and just it's right there. Like, I see it so clearly. I don't understand how he didn't happen upon that.
Yeah, I wish they had done something Wagnerian. That would have been crazy, because you would never have expected that from John Mayer.
And you just got out.
But it's just like, the thing to me is, why wasn't it, kind of, I don't know, why didn't he think to put a little bit more into it, like a little bit more feeling or more kind of aggressive stylings to it? I'm really not sure why it is that, that it just never quite got there. With clearly he has such a love for this style of music, and clearly has a love for, making pop music, because he's done it for so long. Like, I just don't understand why it fell so short for me. It's just a very, I mean, I don't want to say disappointing, but I was pretty jazzed up for this album, and it just didn't really do it for me. All right, and the next single, New Light, was one that I chose, and this was because it was one of the singles. And I remember hearing this song, and I was like, okay, this is going to be, if this is how the rest of the album's going to go, this is going to be pretty sweet, because it was just a nice little kind of 80s bop, and it's just, I want to know the real thing about you so I can see you in a new light. And it's just like kind of a little clever turn of phase. Like, he wants to see her in the daytime, but he also wants to see her in a new light, like spiritually, emotionally, like he wants to change his opinion of her. It's just like a very nice sentiment. But when I realized that this was the high point of the album for me, after I got through listening to it, I was like, man, and this was not even like a single I was like crazy excited about. It was just one that, I thought was, oh, that's pretty good. We'll see what the rest of the album sounds like. If it's this good, it should be pretty good overall. But, not realizing this was going to be the highlight of the album for me.
And it is a highlight. It's pretty fucking groovy, and it's got that kind of like disco hangover to it. And legendary session bassist Pino Palladino plays on this one.
Mm-hmm.
And that is one of the things that is pretty cool. There are a lot of session musicians who worked with, crazy acts between all of them. It must be like over 100 separate acts that they sat in with in making material. So I think it's cool that he got guys that were in the room with his influences and had them on this album. Very cool. Must have been like 30-minute pig orgasm for him when that happened. Like, I legitimately think that's really cool. But you're right. New Light, like, it's pretty striking for this album. There are a couple other that I think reach out and grab you too, but this is just like, even more than Last Train, is like so out of John Mayer's normal fare, that it just kind of remains listenable because of like how interesting it is alone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing, is like this song is probably going to be the only one that I really go out of my way to listen to at all, moving forward. Cause it's just like had that nice dance beat, it's got a very good groove to it. That little synth line, that do-do-do-do-do, like that's quite nice all the way through. It's just like a fun song. It's a little bop, but it's like, it is way out of what you would consider John Mayer's wheelhouse to be. And it's like, I don't know the guy personally, so I don't know what he really what he would consider his wheelhouse to be. I'm sure he thinks whatever type of music he wants to try is in his wheelhouse, which is he's probably more capable of that than I am. I'd like to see him do a podcast. Well, actually, you know what? He probably does. Yeah. I can't really say that. I got nothing on John Mayer. It's disappointing.
I think a lot of us are in that unfortunate boat. We're not big watch guys. John Mayer, big watch guy.
Big watch guy. He's got his own custom Paul Reed Smith like signature model guitar. Yeah, I don't have that.
Yeah, his PRS is pretty fucking sexy. I gotta credit where credit is due. Not a guitar guy, but familiar with them from being around guitar guys. It's a pretty sexy signature guitar.
It's nice. It's got little birds on the fretboard. Yeah, it's a very nice guitar. But goddamn, why am I wish I didn't love John Mayer so much.
It's hard not to. He's pretty dreamy.
He's a very dreamy guy. It's awful. It's awful that I'm this attracted to him.
It just sucks.
I wish I wasn't. But yeah, New Light, just like as a lead single, great. As the high point of the album, as the song that you've already listened to a bunch, so there's like no more surprises after this one. Just a little disappointing for me. I think that kind of added to the disappointment of the album for me overall.
Yeah, I would second that. You're Morty. That's exactly correct. Like this is the high point. There are no surprises. That's the best way to describe it.
Yeah, it just I don't know. Some people are probably gonna love it. I think the aesthetic is great. Like the album cover is like the most like Hall & Oates kind of thing you've ever seen in your life. I mean, just all like pastel pink and blue, like just Miami Vice 80s kind of style. But just, I don't know. I feel like he just tried so hard to fit a mold that he forgot that he was capable of doing better stuff.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a very schizophrenic album. Sometimes it's classic John Mayer. Sometimes it's John Mayer playing, Dire Straits, basically. I think he was half successful in the experiment if it was to have an album that was discovered after it was shelved in the 80s. He's half successful there. If it's a shitpost and he really meant that, flying colors, because it's inconsistent. And as a segue into the next song, I believe this one is a joke. So I just want to say this to start off. The song is Why You No Love Me. I am speaking directly to John Mayer now. John, can I call you John? John, if you're out there, what the fuck is your major malfunction, my man? Why you no love me? First of all, there's the fucking implications of that meme itself. Mm-hmm. There's some very squicky, national and racial things tied up in that. Mm-hmm. So good job, buddy. Picked a great one to jump off with. But also, like, I fucking hate a song about a meme. And this is coming from a guy who will go to the grave arguing that Moo, Bitch I'm a Cow, is a good song. Because that song became a meme. It didn't try to be one, and it wasn't a song about a meme. It went through the proper channels and the proper progression to be a viral hit. And it was this weird bedroom pop by this crazy Bitch I'm a Cow chick. Love it. All aboard. But why you no love me? Have you no decent? Pick yourself up, my man.
It was, I mean, I wrote my note for this one is like, is it country? Is it smooth rock? The song just kind of sucks. Like exactly what my notes were on this one. I really don't know. And this song right here was really where it started the downhill roll for me on this album. It's kind of like New Light's a nice little pick me up. But then you get to Why You No Love Me, and it's like I almost feel like weird saying that because there's no punctuation. It should clearly be Why Don't You Love Me? The number of syllables would work there if he used correct grammar and punctuation.
Yes.
He's not a man known for like butchering the English language in search of some sort of comedic venture. He's a very articulate guy. That's kind of what that's why I think part of the reason people think he's kind of a douchebag is because when he gives interviews, he's very good at, kind of weaving words together to make someone feel like an asshole or make himself look really great. He's very good at that. But this song, like the chorus literally just being, why you no love me, why you no even care, why you no love me, why you no will be there. Like, it's very stupid.
This song did not have to suck, but it literally, everyone I've talked to fucking hates this song. My sister would shed blood for John Mayer. Like, she would do acts of terrorism, hi FBI, to protect John Mayer if it came down to it. And she fucking hated this song. We had a little rap about the album earlier today. And I mean, even his fans fucking hate this. It's stupid. It's obnoxious. It's so fucking dumb and repetitive and lame. And like you said, the answer was right there all along. Why don't you love me? Like, just do that. Why don't you even care? But he just, a 43-year-old man, decides to grasp at straws and include a hip meme, which, by the way, you're even late on your fucking meme that you chose.
Yeah, I don't even remember that meme.
Like, the little, like, stick figure making faces. Like, come, get out of here. Get the fuck out of here. You are a seriously talented guitar player and a talented musician. You are better than Why You No Love Me. The fact that you did this, sir, for shame. For shame.
For shame. It's, I just don't know. I don't know. I don't know why this song existed. I think this was probably the song that he's thinking of when he's like, this album was a shitpost, which I will never agree with about this album, because there's some very, like, while they may not be good lyrics, there's some very emotionally kind of like exposing or, exposed lyrics on this. There's some stuff where he's like really talking about his feelings, as John Mayer, the poor guy that can't seem to find love. You know what I mean? Like, there's some real, like, honesty, I think, in this album. So him to say like it's a shitpost is such a cop out. Yeah, it's just like a way of getting out from under any sort of real criticism about it. And that's probably exactly how he's going to wriggle out from under any criticism of this song if anybody starts calling him out for those kind of implications of like, why you no love me. If you say that, there's a certain area of the world that people are from when they speak English, as a second language, that, the way that we have our verbs and our nouns and stuff is completely different than how they do it. So when they speak it, like, we understand what they mean, but it comes out like the title of this song, and I'm not going to go any further into that to try to lend any credence to, the fact that he's like making fun of this stuff. But it, like, honestly, it is a little offensive. Like, it's a little bit offensive to have that in there.
I mean, most of these weird memes with the aggressive, like, guy biting his lip, potato face guy, you know what I'm talking about. All those, like, creepy MS Paint curse-looking drawings, Pepe the Frog, all that stuff. Yeah. That all originated with the fucking cretins that feed at the bottom of the internet ocean. That wasn't, like, Patton Oswalt coming up with why you know, insert reference here. Yeah. It's all these little D-bags that are like, they love their 6-letter gamer words and they're going to exercise their right to say them, by God. Like, so they can find a racist thing and make it go mainstream, and people don't really pay attention to it until it gets all the way to John Mayer and he makes a fucking song about it. It's just like, on an album that demonstrates so much emotional maturity and vulnerability musically, because the lyrics, again, don't really help. They just give you context and then the music takes over. There's some really heartfelt shit on this album, and then you put a fucking giant stinker turd like this. Fuck off. Just fuck off. This is the most, like, I hated when Haim fucking shielded themselves in like, well, anyone that criticizes us is just criticizing women. It's like, that is horseshit. You knew what you signed up for when you became a fucking artist. You should welcome criticism. It should sharpen your steel. And I fucking absolutely hate it that John Mayer's like, it's a joke. It's a joke. It's just a joke. See?
Yeah.
No.
Not good.
Nope. No fucking way.
Yeah, you're not getting past us, John. You're not getting past us.
No goddamn way.
We see right through you. So the next one, Wild Blue, was also one that you picked.
Yeah, and we're slightly pressed for time, so I'll just kind of give it its kudos as one of the songs I like better. He's very clearly aping Mark Knopfler from Dire Straits. This is a super Dire Straits song.
Oh yeah.
Just like the finger playing and stuff and the wild solo. So
Mm-hmm.
I really appreciate the guitar work. It is lyrically basic. It's just like surface level soul searching after a breakup. You can't even call it
Yeah.
soul searching. It's not that deep. It's just kind of like extended introspection, I guess. But it really kind of is all about the guitar technique here. This is where
Mm-hmm.
he shows off he's a fucking master. This is
Yeah.
where you get to respect him for what he does.
Yes. And it's, I mean, I think people that are like love classic rock and everything are fully well aware of kind of where Mark Knopfler stands in kind of the pantheon of greatest guitarists ever. But, you know, there's the list of like Jimi Hendrix and Chuck Berry, you know, and all these guys that, and Eddie Van Halen, you know, that all these guys that were like groundbreakers and like kicked the door down to a brand new style of music. You know what I mean? But there's also these guys that are kind of on a second tier compared to those that like didn't necessarily make any groundbreaking music or make anything that was like totally changed the game as far as music goes. But Mark Knopfler is to me, I think a severely underrated guitar player, and that I don't really see enough people discussing just how talented he is and just how different he was at that time period. You know, because you had hair metal going on at that time, so you had all the guitar like pyrotechnics that you were getting from like Poison and Motley Crue and all these bands, you know, and even Prince at that time, you know, so you had like some styles of guitar that were like very, very popular. And then you had Dire Straits, and it was this like almost prog rock kind of sound, which I think is what made people kind of like put it on the outskirts. Like real rock and roll and real guitar fans picked up on Dire Straits immediately, but I think they only had a couple really big time hits. But Mark Knopfler as a guitar player is absolutely phenomenal, incredible, one of the best to ever do it. And John Mayer, like kind of aping that style, is normally I'd be like, oh, you're just ripping him off. But I think John Mayer has a very good appreciation for his predecessors when it comes to guitar. Like that's why he plays in Dead and Company, is because he loved listening to Jerry Garcia. You know what I mean? So like he's got a deep respect for that. So I think him playing like Mark Knopfler is coming from that place of respect, not trying to rip him off. And, you know, to me, you can't pick many better guitar players to try to ape. And it shows how talented John Mayer is that you would even make that comparison.
Yep. I mean, I couldn't have said it better, and I don't have much more to say about this one. It really, again, was the showcase for all things guitar, John Mayer's talent and Mark Knopfler's influence. So I yield the floor.
Yeah, very good guitar work in that one. The next one that we're going to talk about, Shot in the Dark. Now, this one I picked not because I loved it. I picked this one because it was like the worst thing that In Excess ever made was better than this song to me. Like it just like it was trying so hard to be that like big time like arena 80s ballad, and it just like a fart in the wind for me. It was just there and gone.
It's the attempt at the ballad. It's fucking misplaced. The place for the ballad was an entirely different song, like I said, with Maren Morris. Because she's on this fucking song too. Maren Morris, we picked all three Maren songs from the album. So the time and the place to utilize her would have been in a duet where she can boost up the fact that John Mayer, his phone sex, breathy voice, call me now for only $2 a minute. Like, you hit a point of diminishing returns, and it would have been nice if someone came in and shot a little fucking speed into the guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it just I don't mean this. I want you in the worst way. Is the gate code still your birthday?
Creepy.
Like just very creepy, because you know who knows what kind of consent is happening in that situation. But I really wanted him to say, "I want you in the worst way," which is standing up in a hammock. That would have been funny to me.
That would have been funny.
Yeah, but yeah, I put this one on here because it was just like one of the worst ones on the album for me, and so I was like, I just have to make sure this one gets its time in the shadows.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we both spent a pick on things we didn't like, and I'll tell you what, I didn't hate this one as much as you did, but I definitely see the faults. The way that this one builds and like the incorporating the piano and stuff, I might be misplacing his like hours of operation, so to speak. Like, was
Mhm.
Bruce Hornsby a thing in the 80s, or was that not until the 90s?
I
That's
don't
just the
know.
way it is, and Mandolin Rain and all that stuff.
I don't know.
Mandolin Rain, what a fucking absolutely cheesy song.
I want to say that was probably 80s for Bruce Hornsby. Because
Let's
isn't that
check.
the way it is? Isn't that what Tupac used in Changes?
And that would have been 92, right?
Yeah, so I would think that Bruce Hornsby would have had, I mean, at the latest would have been the early 90s. Because that song had already been a big hit by the time Tupac used it for Changes.
Okay, let's see. Bruce Hornsby. That's just the way it is. I guess it's just called The Way It Is. 1986.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So I was correct to feel the way that I did. It was very Bruce Hornsby.
Yeah. Look at us doing this detective work. You know?
Wow.
Little process of elimination. That's what it's elementary, my dear Alex.
Big brain stuff happening.
Yeah. And the last one we're going to talk about, because as you said a long time ago, we're getting pressed for time. I feel like we're even more pressed now. I'm not even going to look at the timer. We're not even going to worry about that little guy. Don't worry about that little guy.
Nah.
Till the right one comes. As far as I'm concerned, lyrically on this one, this was his best effort. Just because I think when we're talking about the emotional vulnerability and like the honesty on this one, I think this song is kind of the big kind of flag waver as far as those subjects go. I do like that he addresses the fact that he has been seen as a playboy,
Mm-hmm.
Somebody that just kind of fly by night kind of guy. He's certainly done well for himself. I think his list of conquests rivals that of Derek Jeter, who has a quite legendary list himself. So I think he's done very well for himself, but he's trying to say this like, oh, I'm just a sensitive guy. People don't really know the real me. I'll find the right one sometime. And it's just like, that's the feeling he's getting, which I believe is truly how he feels, which is why I think these lyrics, whether I believe them or not, whether I believe he actually wants to find somebody to fall in love with or not, I feel like the lyrics are genuine. I feel like in his mind, he really does feel this way. And I think it's the most honest song on the album.
Yeah, totally agree. It's the most honest one because it's elegant in its simplicity. Like, I don't know what I'm looking for romantically, but I'll know it when I see it, which is simultaneously like a mature attitude to take, I guess, but also you're kind of like deluding yourself. Like, well, I won't look. I'll wait for it to land in my lap. And that's kind of an interesting like peek inside of his psyche, which is this. It kind of shows that he might believe a little bit in magic, the magic of love, like falling in love in an unexpected way. But then that's kind of confounded by the fact that he's one of the most famous, handsome, and let's face it, probably hung guys on the planet. And he didn't even have to give gift baskets like Derek Jeter. I mean, tasteful discretion was the name of the game with John Mayer.
Maybe he gives out guitar picks.
He flicks it at the girl.
Yeah.
Here you go. That's for you. But I think there are many obstacles in his way to find true love and to know it's real, unless he does some rom-com thing where he puts on like hunchback prosthetics and is like, I needed you to love me for my mind, not my body and my riches. Like, it's going to be tough sledding for the guy. So in that way, as crazy as it sounds, I pity John Mayer because I don't hold any of the like douchebag, my penis is Joshua Tree, whatever weird shit that he said.
Yeah.
I don't hold any of that against him. It would be very sad if at 43 he makes this song being like, I'll get love someday. And then just the night watch, he takes no wife, he bears no children. And he just kind of is gone one day. That'd be sad. That'd be legitimately sad.
It would be. But I just kind of see how he's lived his life so far. And I'm like, do you really want to be tied down like that? Is that something you really are after? I guess he's thinking like, oh, if someone comes along and like burns my whole world down and like changes my whole viewpoint on everything, maybe then. But it's like, that's also asking a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's like, I didn't, when I met Marla, obviously I knew pretty quickly that that's, the person that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. But, I certainly didn't expect her to be some sort of superhero. And I think he's kind of looking for that. He's like, somebody will amaze me enough someday that that's like putting a lot of pressure on whoever that person is.
It's putting It's putting a ton of pressure on my sister. You're right. And but it's putting a lot of pressure on himself, on this theoretical woman, on the situation. And I think there's an awareness of that too that's reflected in the song. So I 100% agree with you. It's probably the most honest and the most emotionally mature. And musically, it cranks. This is what he's good at. This is his like bluesy, let the guitar do the thinking kind of song. And this is when John Mayer's in the pocket.
Yeah, and I think of, it was New Light that I liked on this one, and this was the other one that kind of that I didn't mind so much. But the rest of it just really, for me, it didn't do it for me. I think you probably liked this one a lot more than I did overall. It doesn't sound like you had like too glowing of an opinion of it, but you certainly weren't coming in here thrashing it like I was. But I mean, as far as, whether I say stream it or skip it, like I'm going to say skip it on this one.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, once again, we're a house divided, because I'm going to enthusiastically say stream it. It is worth listening to. It is worth formulating your own opinion about. Because like I said, the guy whose musical ability I like potentially respect the most relative to like how well I know him is Eric. And he saw brilliance in this, and I like desperately want to, not just so that he'll think I'm cool, that's a bonus, but I like desperately want to see it, and it's like out of my grasp. But if other people see something in it, it's 100% worth listening to. So I remember the first time through being like, this is pretty all right. And I remember Tanner basically saying the same thing. And then listening more critically, I'm like, all right is probably the best I can do without being totally fucking mean. But it 100% in my eyes merits a listen. So we're 50-50 booking here once again. Yeah.
I mean, it happens. It happens. If I wanted someone that agreed with me all the time, I'd just have one of my dogs on the podcast with me.
There you go.
And actually, no, because they barely ever agree with me. They always want to eat, and I'm like, no, you get to eat twice a day. So we agree twice a day, I guess. I guess that was a bad example.
Well, never mind.
It's been a long episode.
You'll have to find some other sycophant next time.
Yeah, just have a little doll or something.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, I'll just get one of those Teddy Ruxpin dolls, but I'll make a recording on the cassette of just me saying, "You're right. That's a great idea, Geoff."
You should program it with quotes from Rory.
No, I said I want it to agree with me.
None of this even fucking matters. Just a tiny teddy bear with eyelashes just being like, what's the fucking point?
Can an inanimate object kill itself?
We're going to find out. It
Is that
shoots
possible?
the batteries out of its back. No
just
future.
shorts itself out and sets itself on fire.
Yeah. That would be a tremendous bit. A+.
Wow. Well, congratulations, John Mayer, for getting us into some suicide talk.
Yeah, always a pleasure, John.
Very, very nice of you with SOB ROCK. So, quick recap here. Fuck Eric Clapton. Go listen to Coheed.
Yeah.
And you make your own decision on the John Mayer. If you go with my co-host, go ahead and listen to it. Go ahead and make your own decisions. For me, probably not going back to this one, but more power to you if you find the meaning of life in this one.
Yeah.
All right. Did you have anything else, Monsieur?
No, I have nothing.
Okay. Like nothing in general or just for the podcast?
I just have nothing. I have nothing in my life, and by extension, nothing in the podcast.
Okay. Well, you always have next week when we'll see you back here on Out on That Line. You go find us on Instagram at Out on That Line, on Twitter at Out on That Line 1, on YouTube, search hashtag Out on That Line. There might even be a new singles video up there for you this week, folks. It will have been up there since Thursday. You listened to this on a Monday. It's been up for 3 days and you haven't listened to it yet. Go listen to it twice for your insubordination. Okay? And then listen to it a third time for our numbers because we need them, folks. Send us an email, outonthatline@gmail.com. And if you have an album suggestion, you make sure you let us know at any one of those channels. Until next time.